What's going on, WPFW? It's yours truly, Mazi Mutafa, here for another episode of Something to Say. And I've got a great jam packed show for you. Joining me in this first hour is the founding executive director of an amazing organization that you probably saw on a television station, featured doing the amazing work that it does. I'm joined by Yasmine, or uh, yes, Yasmine, who is the founding executive director of Scholar Chips. Yasmine, how are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Mazi. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Sorry, I was waiting for your whole name to pop up. Yasmine
Arrington Brooks.
Arrington Brooks. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Reading is fundamental, but I'm still working on it. So, Yasmine, can you tell us about scholarships? I see that you were featured in 2003 as a CNN hero. So let me give you your flowers a few years late and
Thank
recognize
you.
the important work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, Mazi. Well, thank you so much for having me on Something to Say. So Scholarships, as you mentioned, is a nonprofit, a 501c3 organization, and our mission is to provide college scholarships, mentoring, mental health supports, and a robust support network for children of incarcerated parents, empowering them to get to and through college and into their careers. And I started scholarships in 2010. At that time, I was a junior in high school. I went to Benjamin Banneker Academic High School in DC, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. But just to share, our impact so far, we have supported over 120 students from, yes, from the DMV, but also across the country. And we've had 56 college graduates so far.
Amazing. I really love knowing that you're an alumni of Banneker because we're actually literally getting ready for the extended day of service tomorrow with Banneker
Nice,
students that are currently in our after school program. Can we talk a little bit
nice.
about so the fact that you went to Banneker means that you are Washingtonian?
Correct. Yes, I was born and raised in DC.
And how do you think going to one of the premier academic high schools in the country and definitely the city uh, prepared you for this kind of service work?
That's a great question. Well, for all of us who either went to Banneker, we're alums who are current Banneker students, faculty, staff, and those who have children who have gone to Banneker, we know that Banneker is a place that promotes community service. We're required, it was so long ago for me now, but I think we had to do at least 300 hours or so of community service from our freshman year all the way until through our senior year. And so the community service is embedded in the culture. Now, before I came to Banneker, though, I was already very active in community service. My maternal grandmother, who raised me and my two brothers, she took us to church on a regular basis. So we were involved in community service through the church. And also, I was a Girl Scout, but I started in middle school. So I already, was sort of attuned to certain social justice issues and things like that. So Banneker was a continuation of that. But I love that there were just so many opportunities and extracurricular activities for me to participate in. And one of them, through which I ultimately started Scholarships, is a nonprofit organization in DC called Learn Serve International, or LSI. And I I just had, some of my peers at Banneker just kept coming up to me and say, Yasmin, you should apply for LearnServe. You should do LearnServe. We think you'd love it. You'd be great. I had no idea what they were talking about. I did some research online. I applied, and this program that's still around today introduces teenagers to social entrepreneurship and the idea that we have agency even at a young age to make positive change. So I was in the right place at the right time, and I took advantage of the opportunity. And of course, there's a little bit more to the story, but yeah, Banneker definitely prepared me for community service, but also college and life. And it was really difficult sometimes as a high school student because the standards of excellence in academics was so high. But without question, I know it prepared me for college and for life. So
What's the more to the story that you stopped?
yeah, absolutely. So and learn serve it's a year long program, like a school year long, and we would go to School Without Walls about twice a month, and we would have our cohort meetings. And it was through the program where they introduced us to social entrepreneurship. They would bring in guest speakers that either founded their own nonprofit organizations or worked at nonprofits, or people who worked at corporations that had, social corporate responsibility sectors and community partnerships and things like that. And they asked us one day, they said, "What pisses you guys off?" And of course, 15, 16 year olds, we're taken for a loop. Like, what do you mean what pisses us off? But we were challenged to identify a social issue in our schools, in our home, in our world, community, neighborhood, and to identify that social issue and come up with a creative solution, or what they called a venture or venture project that we will ultimately pitch to a panel of volunteer judges. And I call that sort of like a mini Shark Tank for teenagers. And how I came up with the idea was twofold. One, well, the issue I chose was mass incarceration and the prison industrial complex. But I had to narrow my focus a little bit more so that I could sort of know what angle I was going to attempt to tackle this social issue, so to speak. And I narrowed my focus to the effects of parental incarceration on children and families. And part of the reason that that resonates with me is because sadly, my father, my biological father, has been in and out of jail and prison my entire life to this very day. And then at the same time, that this was my junior year. And so me and my grandmother were researching for scholarships and trying to figure out, like, get it together how I was going to pay for college, because I had already sort of made up my mind and knew that that was the path that I was going to take. And fortunately, I was able to hustle enough, and had favor with judges, and of course, with my grades and community service. Like, I had a really strong resume, or Banneker calls it a brag sheet, which I think is hilarious. But I pitched this idea of scholarships. Oh, well, my grandmother said, Yasmine, there are so many creative and niche scholarship programs out here, but I don't see any for young people like yourself who have incarcerated parents. So grandma had the aha, and I just kept trying to rack my brain to figure out how in the world could I possibly attempt to help to solve, or to do something positive, to kind of counteract some of the challenges and the negative effects of the prison industrial complex and, mass incarceration. And so that was the answer, and it was scholar chips. And chips is an imperfect acronym. We see coip, coip a lot, but chips, it's more catchy. And like I said, it's an imperfect acronym for children of incarcerated parents. But I pitched this idea of a scholarship and mentorship program for young people like me who have incarcerated parents, and I gave statistics. At that time, the statistic was, over 2 million young people in the United States have or have had an incarcerated parent. Today, we know that that number is higher because the Annie E. Casey Foundation published a report not too long ago that stated that nearly 5 million young people have had an incarcerated parent from their birth through at least 18 years old. So it's a big challenge in a lot of families. Not just, even though incarceration does impact African Americans and people of color, and poor whites, but it's incarceration affects people from all walks of life and demographics. So I pitched the idea to my surprise, the judges loved it, and they were encouraging me to consider making scholarships a real breathing organization. And I kind of followed that trail, and as they say, the rest is history.
If you're just tuning in, the vision for scholarships is that they envision a world where children, adolescents, and young adults with incarcerated parents are no longer marginalized and stigmatized by society and are afforded equal opportunity and access to higher education. Um, can we talk a little bit about so you went to Banneker, the judges encouraged you to turn this into a nonprofit. You
Hmm.
went on to college
Yes. Yep. I went to Elon University in North Carolina.
and majored in.
I double majored in strategic communications and history.
And when exactly, because we didn't talk about what year you, I don't think we talked about what year you were in high school, but what year did you actually incorporate scholarships as a nonprofit?
Hmm. So I'll just say this, and then I'll answer the question. So I pitched the idea in 2010, and I did the official kickoff launch of scholarships in October of 2010 as my Girl Scout Gold Award project. And then, but of course, I didn't have our papers or anything. And so LearnServe, myself and one of my mentors asked LearnServe if they would be willing to be our fiscal agent until we got our incorporation and all of that. So we became incorporated in 2012, and then we got our official 501c3 status in 2013. So it was 2013. And then in terms of when I started, so I graduated from Banneker in 2011 and then started college in the fall of 2011.
And so was scholarship something you were operating while you were in college?
Yes, yes. But I had, so how I did it, yes. So how I did it was, I mean, it was a startup organization. And so at that point, it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was a lot to do, but of course my primary focus was going through my college courses and all. But I the board chair at the time, the founding board chair at that time, who was also my Girl Scout Gold Award leader, was very involved, which was great at the time. And so I pretty much just, and it's funny because I didn't even realize what I was doing per se, but I was basically delegating. So there were certain things that we wanted to do that needed to be done. And of course, she and I were both learning about grant writing at the same time. We were learning about prospect research and things that development development committees and people do and not and directors do in nonprofits. So she was, we were walking through that together, and I would just certain things that we might want to do or need to do because I was in North Carolina while scholarships was in DC. I would just delegate, and then on like holidays when we had our Thanksgiving break, that's when we did like an annual college life skills conference, which we still do, but it's no longer during that Thanksgiving, holiday time. But I would come home for that. We would do that, go back, and then come back for the holidays, like wintertime. And then we would take our students to see a play at Arena Stage. And then in the summertime is when we would have our award ceremonies. And so that tradition is still going on, and we're about to have our 15th annual award ceremony in July of 2026.
Uh, if you're just tuning in, that's the voice of Yasmine Brooks, who said this at the beginning of this interview. In the United States alone, more than 5 million children have had a parent in prison at some point in their lives. Scholarships is the only organization uniquely positioned to provide ongoing, tailored support and resources to young adults who've experienced parental incarceration and are matriculating through college. So, can we talk a little bit about the process for identifying young people who then apply for scholarships? Uh, scholarships through scholar chips.
Little tongue twister there, right?
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. So in terms of students come to us a few different ways. One, of course, through their own research, when they're Googling, when they're chat GPTing, when they're searching for scholarships online, scholarships does pop up along the way in their research. And so a lot of them apply that way. We also have some partnerships with a few of the local high schools. I call it a positive pipeline. And so, for example, like Bard High School, especially KIP, KIP is a big one. McKinley Tech, they send us a lot of students from time to time. So the high schools in DC, especially, and Maryland as well, they've become very familiar with scholarships. And so when the college counselors, we know some of the college counselors as well. So when they have students and they learn some of their personal story and they learn that they have an incarcerated parent, they will refer them to us. And then also we do have a fairly new and young partnership with a corporation called Securus, aka Aventive Technologies, and Securus is one of those corporations that has they have partnerships with I don't think they're in the federal system. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but they definitely have it within like local state prisons and jails, and they have implemented tablets. And so, those who are incarcerated can do a lot on those tablets, and they can do video calls with their children and their loved ones. But we also promote. We're about to do it again this year. We started in 2024 or 2025. No, I'm sorry, 2024, and we promote the scholarship and the program on the tablets for like a limited time, maybe a couple of months, as is leading up to our application process, which opens up usually in January and it closes in April or like late March. And so that also, what that does is for our incarcerated brothers and sisters, they see it, and if they have any touch base at all with their families, they'll call, they'll email, they'll let them know about the scholarship program and say, hey, I think you should really apply to this. So we've actually gotten applicants and scholars from their who learned about the scholarship from their incarcerated loved one. And I really love that, because it's a connector for our incarcerated brothers and sisters and their children, from the outside. So
Amazing. Just so you know, if you're wondering about the other person on the line, I have a set of interns that we have through
nice,
the school year internship program from DOES. And
nice.
sitting back, witnessing her first show with us is one of my interns, Salem. If at some point she has a question, she'll come off mute to be able to ask a question. She's a brilliant young lady, junior in high
Nice.
school. Um,
Congratulations, Salem.
with that being said, I'm curious. Uh, so you talked about the corporate amplifier that you have in terms
Mhm.
of the partnership with Securus. Then she said hello in the chat. Then one of the things that we do with our interns is host a monthly town hall meeting, and we had a student uh, mention on air that their parent is incarcerated. I wonder, have you thought of, or do you already have relationships with things like the DC Public School guidance counselors to be able to alert middle school and high school students of the existence of the scholarship? So I know it's for graduating seniors, but those middle schoolers knowing that you exist means that this is a thing they look forward to, something they engage with, or maybe they have older brothers and sisters who could take advantage of it currently.
That's an excellent question, Mazi. Sadly, full transparency, we don't have reach in the middle schools yet, but that's definitely, I mean, I think that's something that we need to do and that should happen. It's really just been a matter of capacity, because we're still a very, very teeny tiny nonprofit. So But I hope that we can do that one day, and strengthen our partnerships with local high schools, as well as develop partnerships with the colleges and universities that our scholars are going to.
So, just as a neighbor in the nonprofit space, I wanna say to you live on air, you're not a teeny tiny nonprofit.
Thank
I
you.
understand why you're saying that, especially as a founder and feeling like there's all these other things that are bigger and doing and having and etc. But the reality is that you have found a niche, and more important than that, the partnerships that you develop. This is the thing that I've learned. I've been doing my work for 24 years, and it's still
Wow.
small. it's it's still small in terms of staff. We have
Hmm.
a $2 million budget.
Wow.
We work in multiple schools around the city. We do all kinds of projects, but currently there's only two full-time staff that work here. So two full-time people are making all of that stuff happen with the support of a whole team of contractors and
Hmm.
volunteers and board members. And so, like, I say the same thing to myself. I'm like, oh, we're so small. How come? But it's not about how big your organization is. It's about how big the impact is. And I know you
Mm.
know this firsthand as a witness to the impact of your scholarships. Celebrating
Mm.
your 13th
15th.
ceremony of
15th.
15th ceremony of
Yeah.
most businesses don't last 3 years. And the idea that you
Mm.
started yours while you were in high school and then really kicked it off while you were in college, kudos to you. I'm glad that you got recognized by a major media outlet because you deserve it. And
Thank
so
you.
it's not about the size of the organization. It's like that. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. And it sounds
Yeah.
like Scholar Chips got major fight in it to be able to make a
Yeah.
major difference in the lives of young people and their families in the DMV and beyond. Um,
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mazi. Amen and Ashe. Thank
can you
you.
tell me the what you see as the so I talked in your vision you talked about the world. Can we talk about how it is that you see the growth of scholarships over the next 5 years, 10 years, as you develop? Like, who are the people, if they were listening right now, that you would want to partner with
Mm.
that could also amplify the work that you're doing? Those two questions.
Excellent questions, Mazi. Excellent. Um, yes, scholarships, and that's amazing that you picked that up. Scholarships is a, in terms of vision wise, I believe it's a divine vision and it's a global vision. Because I mean, we know that sadly the United States has a big problem. There's like this. There's so many pipelines and undercurrents, racism, and all of these things that funnel people into uh, these jails and prisons and these ridiculous sentences. But it's a global challenge, and there are lots of young people who um, have incarcerated parents. Even in Europe, and like I know I've met organizations in Europe who are working with children of incarcerated parents, as well as Africa. There's an organization um, called Wells of Hope in it's in Uganda, Kampala, Uganda, and it started by an incredible. I mean, this man is truly an earth angel. Truly, his name is Francis Sasubi, and he founded this organization. It might be older than scholarships, and he takes in young people who actually a lot of them are orphans, sadly, because in most cases one of their parents is incarcerated and the other one has passed or has abandoned them, and they don't have any grandparents or anyone to who can afford or who want to take care of them. And so he houses them, and they have all these different workshops, and they teach them life skills, computer typing and all of these things, and hair braiding. I mean, it's a number of skills that they teach their children and young people. And one of the things that that he has not been able to implement, and I understand why, is when some of the students sort of age out, when they age out of Wells of Hope and they want to go to the university or college, there's no they have really have no supports for them, and then just like here, they have to take exams to get into these universities. It costs money to take those exams. It costs money to go to the university, to buy their books and room and board and all of that. I mean, of course, the amount is different. Like their annual tuition might be $5,000, $6,000, as opposed to over here. You're talking anywhere from 40 to, I don't know, 40 to $70,000 a year. But it's a need, and it's something I'm passionate about. I've been to a couple of countries in Africa. I've been to Ghana. I've been to Zambia. I have not been to a lot of other countries there and around the world, but I think I do believe that I will say this. I've seen there's a nonprofit organization called INSIP. It's the International Coalition for Children of Incarcerated Parents. There are other organizations from across the world in that are like it's not a paid membership, but who are members of this coalition. And I believe that scholarships can really be not only a beacon of light, but actually boots on the ground, helping young people get into, not that college. I realize that college is not always an option for people. It's not always the best option. And yes, people can be successful without going to college. But I'm a big advocate of college and university experience for a number of reasons. But anyway, that I really see us being able to have that sort of impact. But of course, like, I mean, it can be done. It can absolutely be done, but you need hands and you need resources. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. You mentioned what might look like in the next 5 to 10 years, and of course that can be hard to gauge. But I never would have imagined that scholarships would have gone on as long and has been as quote unquote successful as it has been. And we started off just strictly only providing scholarships to students in the DMV. And now in 2024, we opened up our eligibility right after the CNN piece that was in December 2023. And now we have students that are in other states in the United States. I never would have thought that to be possible. And in the summertime, we fly them and one of their loved ones into DC for the ceremony. So if we can do that, eventually maybe we'll have scholars in other countries. But like I said, it takes resources, and I don't know. Trying to find those other people out there who understand the importance of the work and who see the value in investing in the work and donating and things like that. But you really gotta search sometime to find your people, or I'm just trying to raise my vibration so we can, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? But it's been interesting.
Well, I just want to pivot real quick because I mentioned that Salem, we've been running this some school year internship program all year, and we just had 4 interns transition out because they're only funded to be with us for the first half of the school year. So we have brand new interns that started last week. So this
Oh
is
wow.
Salem's very first question
Oh wow.
on the radio, and she sent it to me in advance. I was like, "Sounds like a great question. Why don't you come off mute and ask it?" So let's see, Salem, if you can figure out how to come off mute so you can ask your amazing question.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me well?
Perfect.
Hi Salem, we can hear you.
Hi. So my question was, in what scenario would it not be possible to assist somebody?
Oh, that's a great question. A couple of things, but mainly if we don't have the funding or the resources available to support the applicant or the scholars. Truth be told, in the last two year, like I'd say the last year and a half up to this point, I have seen a change, or I have felt a change. in the atmosphere, and like with in the United States with our economy and with the current administration, there's been there's sort of been an attack on supports for anything that might be interpreted as like DEI or supporting quote unquote, putting in parentheses, minorities. And so I've and then as well as the changes in the economy. So there's been a change in giving and even grants. And if a nonprofit does not have the, like, if they don't have an endowment, if they don't have certain things in place, if you're only if the nonprofit is only relying on grants and on donations, it can be a very, what I'm learning, it can be a very fragile thing. And so if the resources aren't there, as much as you want to help, I mean, yeah, they could participate in workshops and things like that, like professional development, resume building, that kind of thing. But in terms of like dollars in hand, tuition, scholarships going towards tuition and book awards, sometimes it's just not always possible. But I do believe there are other ways to support this community.
With that being said, Yasmine, thank you for telling me. My microphone was muted. I'm sitting here thinking, I should have done this in advance. I should have looked at your website to see who some of your current funders are. Because I know when we first got started, one of our first funders was a group called I feel like it's called the Global Children Foundation.
Okay, I've
There's
never
so
heard of them.
they're based in DC, and they fund kind of similar programs to the one you participated in as a Banneker
Okay.
student. But they fund programs like that and initiatives like that around the world. But they gave us a grant for, I want to say, like $10,000, $5,000. I don't remember. But I was also just there's so many little grants that can go towards general operating, could be converted into scholarships. So I want to encourage you that there's also plenty of DEI committees that still exist within corporations. I know there's ones
Yeah,
that have literal sponsorship decks sitting with DEI committees in multiple companies right
that's
now.
incredible.
But the thing is that one of the things that's happening is they're pivoting from calling themselves DEI to just saying
Mm-hmm.
culture. It's kind of
Mm,
like right now there's a huge uproar on the internet about FAMU banning people from calling programs black, and specifically someone was promoting a Black History Month event, and I responded to a friend of mine who was posting about how enraged he was by the fact that the colleges that I visit here in the DC metro area for years stopped calling their programming Black History Month. They called it African American History Month,
mm.
which personally I've had an issue with because Black History Month is about the whole diaspora, not just African Americans.
Right.
But but I don't think that the people in the student life departments are really like have a real understanding, or maybe they
Mm,
have a malicious understanding and want to just be about celebrating African Americans as opposed to Afro Caribbeans and folks on the continent and folks in Asia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
absolutely.
But I say that to say,
Absolutely.
don't give up on the fact that companies are still invested in DEI. I would encourage you to really think about how you're recruiting people to your board to be able to help with that fundraising work. Early on, having a board, especially going through a founding board, it's very easy to get discouraged by your board of directors because usually we recruit people who've never been on a board before, so they're not super duper helpful. But but just the things you've accomplished, the places that you've been placed in the media, feel like there would be folks in Washington D.C. who work in international development. Think about all those people who just lost their jobs at USAID who are very much interested in international development.
Yeah.
If to support that international part of your work.
That's a great idea.
And I'm saying that because we just did a fundraiser last week to support sending a delegation to Paris, and raised a few $1,000s with a member of my board who transitioned out of USAID, but invited a bunch of people from his network who are still committed to that kind of work.
That's incredible. I might, Mazi, if I mean, not that, no, you don't owe me anything, but,
I don't owe you nothing. Feel free to reach out afterwards. We can continue to talk. But
but
I think at the end, when I ask you for your contact information, a number of people that are listening are going to reach out to you, because there's so many people who listen to WPFW who work in schools. So many people who are, community organizers, executive directors, some folks from foundations, and I know because I've had them on as guests, and they told me that they were listeners. So, um, this question, the secondary question that I had asked, which is like the dream groups that you want to work with, who are
Mhm.
those folks? Because someone might be listening who either works at those places or knows someone who works at those places, to be able to connect you to them.
Wow, oh goodness, Mazi. I mean, I'll do my best to answer this, but I wish I could be a bit more specific with some of them. Uh, I will say that scholarships is we're looking at developing a partnership with Daughters Beyond Incarceration, which is a nonprofit organization that's in New Orleans. And it is also run by a Black woman. And I'm just really excited about that because they're high school girls, and they all have parents in prison. And so we're working on that partnership. I would love to do more with organizations that I would love to like put on a conference, but not just for the sake, like not just another conference, but there are actually a lot of organizations that support children of incarcerated parents, whether it be grade school students, like K through 12, not as many, that support them beyond 12, but advocacy organizations like We Got Us Now, like US Dream Academy. Like I think there needs to be some type of synergy, and so we need to put our heads together and come up with some items, and it doesn't have to all be policy, but you know what I mean, because it's just so much power and collateral that we're not we're not utilizing. So that's one. But in terms of, I think what you mentioned was awesome. Like maybe folks who used to work at USAID, who have that international mindset and have expertise in certain countries, and also how do you call them? Folks who are a part of these embassies. What are they? There's a name,
You're talking about the cultural
ambassadors or
attaches or the ambassadors?
either, and I think they're called ambassadors. There's another word I'm looking for, and it's not delegates or ambassadors. Um, Also, folks who are connected to technology firms, to wealth management firms, law firms, because I know as well that, as you mentioned, with corporations that have corporate social responsibility departments and community partnership departments and this kind of thing. I know that law firms also sometimes offer sponsorships for local nonprofit organizations that are doing community work, boots on the ground, venture capital firms. Because it's just I from my experience so far, it seems like it's really hard to get in the door when you don't know anyone there on the inside, or you don't know how to knock on the door to get it open. So anyway, I just we really need support. We need people who have resources, who have a social capital, that are not afraid to share. A contact, making an introduction, so that we can go to lunch, go over coffee, just things like that make a really, really big difference for scholarships. And shameless plug, we you mentioned sending a delegation to another country. This year, scholarships has an incredible opportunity. This has never happened for us before, but there's a woman who is out of Alfred Street Baptist Church. She has been doing a program called Leader to Leader, where she goes to South Africa at least twice a year, and this she goes during Mandela Week, it's like a week of community service. And so she wants to take some young people over there, especially HBCU current students and graduates. So I want to at least have a couple of delegates from scholarships to go over there. But of course, that requires some funding. And also, we're going to Arizona State University's annual Children of Incarcerated Parents conference. This is like their 8th or 9th year, and we're going to take some students. So, like, we're going to take one from Missouri State, Missouri University of Missouri. We're going to take a couple from, you mentioned FAMU. We're going to take a couple from Florida State. I think it's Florida State University, and a couple other couple other states. But we need the support in order to make that happen. So.
You know, because you're an important and impactful organization, you're going to continue to meet people who encourage you to think about expanding your vision. And unfortunately, I'm going to be one of those people real quick. But like I tell everybody, everyone has something to share with you, but not everything that anyone has to share with you is useful. So I would encourage you to think about, particularly when you're investing abroad, to not just think about college scholarships, but to be thinking about school fees for people that go to schools or have school or go live in countries where there is no public school, and the only way they go to school is if they're like if their high school fees are paid. We did that for a young lady we met in Uganda named
Wow,
MC Ship. We paid her school fees for 3 years because we have
that's
a partnership
incredible.
with one of those angels on earth you described named Babaluku, who runs an
Mm,
organization there called the Bavubuka Foundation, which means the Children's Foundation. And they're hip hop based like us. And so we met this
amazing.
young MC who was dope. I said MC Ship, MC Flower, and gave her a scholarship that paid her school fees for 4 consecutive years to get her through primary school.
That's incredible.
Um,
Thank you for that. Thank you. I will keep that in mind. I mean, listen, whatever we are able to do and that we know about, because I'm a doer. So if I see a need, if I'm able to address it or scholarships, as long we just gotta say the word and connect, like make those connections so that we know what the needs are, and then just however do a fundraiser if we have to, make a phone call and or just send it, and get it done. But I thank you for that, because I didn't even think about the fact that in certain countries that students won't be able to finish school unless their school fees are paid. And for us, whatever it might be, $50, $35, $50, $100 a year, that's much more doable for us than some of the private schools and colleges that have their own fees, that we're dealing with. We can easily pay $300 or something to help a student somewhere else. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
with that being said, if you're just tuning in, that is the voice of the visionary leader, Yasmine Brooks, who is the founding executive director of Scholar Chips. We've been talking for the last 40 or so minutes about the amazing work she's doing and the ways in which the listening audience can think about how to support, whether that's if you're a person that's got relationships you want to bring to bear towards dealing with this global challenge by investing in the families of incarcerated individuals now here in the United States. If you want to do that at a board level, at a volunteer level, at a person that needs the actual services, how can people find you? What's your website, your social, all that good stuff, Yasmin?
Absolutely, Mazi. So, friends, please, please reach out to us, connect with us. You can find us. Our website is scholarchipsfund.org. Again, that is scholarchips with a C, CHIPSFUND.org. We're also on major social media apps, and you can find us on Instagram at Scholarchips Fund DC. On Instagram, excuse me, on TikTok at Scholarchips Fund. On Facebook, Scholarchips. Twitter, well, as a matter of fact, I won't even, a lot of people have divested from X, so I won't even go there. But you can find us mainly on various social media at Scholarchips or Scholarchips Fund. And we look forward to connecting with you, getting you plugged into the community, and hearing from you.
Also, if you missed it because you just tuned in, Yasmine is a Washingtonian, a graduate from Benjamin Banneker High School, college graduate, founder, person that lived on some level the thing that she's working to try to address, recognizing the absence of resources that were available to her. And she wants to be the change that she wished she had had as a young person. And this is an opportunity for you to invest in a Washingtonian, invest in a Black woman-led organization at a time where so many amazing things that the Black women do and have done are under attack. She is not. She is a servant to humanity. She talked about the work that she was doing through her church, and I think that that's another place to look at. There's so many churches, and to be transparent, I am
Mhm.
an observant Muslim, but
Mhm.
I don't knock nobody's beliefs. So I
Same.
know a number of churches, particularly in Prince George's County, that have missions that they send abroad. So thinking about how those missionaries could also bring a scholarship with them could be a great opportunity for them to make not just a spiritual investment, but an academic investment in communities that they visit through a collaboration with you.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Well, Yasmin, I want to thank you so much for making time for this. I want to thank you so much for dedicating this stage of your life to making this difference in the lives of so many young people in our communities and beyond. And I appreciate you being here to tell your story. Next time you have a big thing that's coming up and you want the listeners of WPFW to know about it, please come back because I want to do whatever we can to shine a light on this important work you're doing in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and beyond.
Thank you, Mazi. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Not a problem at all.